It's a warm welcome to Rob Hersov. After a completely viral talk that you gave at the BizNews conference in the Drakensberg, and why I say that, there were 100 people in the two rooms that we had on the joint stage in the middle to comply with COVID regulations, and the video has been seen by 100,000 people already. So clearly, those who were in the room were very privileged. Those who were outside the room have shown incredible interest. I've had a lot of feedback, Rob, and much of the feedback is, okay, well, this guy can afford to say these things, but what does he intend doing about it? And surely, if he's investing himself, there's a bit of a contrast with what he was saying, that South Africa is uninvestable. What's your feedback been?
So I've got thousands of messages, and I've copied all of them to my wife, and the vast majority have been positive, and they've come from South Africans, Africans, people internationally of all races. I've got hundreds of messages from black friends, white friends, you name it. And people have, the general message is the following: this is something that needed to be said. No one else has stood up and said it. Well done on you to say it. And I've got a lot of negative, and quite a lot of negatives from that as well. And I do have some regrets. Remember, it was a few days after the civil unrest at your excellent conference. Jason McCormick made that incredible presentation, 72 Hours of Anarchy. And, I got up on the stage to make my speech, and I was pretty emotional and pretty angry. I'd been getting a lot of messages from people in desperate situations in KZN, Gauteng, asking for help, people isolated on farms, people having to defend themselves with no help from the military or the police, or scant help. And, Jason gave this incredible presentation, and I got up there thinking, stuff this, I'm upset, I'm pissed off, I'm going to say what I'm angry about. The ANC has let us down. The ANC is destroying this country, and we need to all vote for the opposition, for Herman Mashaba of Action SA, for the DA. And we need to get the ANC out. They're destroying the country and they're destroying the economy. But, my wife, who's my soulmate, my greatest spirit, and who I listen to, said to me, I shouldn't have named names, and I really shouldn't have. So that was a mistake. And I used the M word, which upset a lot of people. But the reality is, you cannot keep voting for something that is destroying you. It's not a football team that you support through thick and thin. This is our government. And if they're destroying the country, vote them out. So, an extraordinary thing happened yesterday. I did name names, and I wish I hadn't actually, but I called out the transport minister. He called me yesterday. He called me and he said, and I said to him, I can't believe that I've insulted you publicly and now you're calling me. I said, it takes a real man to do that. And he laughed. He said, these things happen. Don't worry about it. I clearly am not skilled enough to be a politician, but to his credit, that takes a real man to do that. He picked the phone up to me. I should have picked it up to him. So
Rob, what was that conversation like? What was it about?
No, which was brief, and I basically took the initiative and said to him, look, I shouldn't have. I wish I'd used someone else's name and not yours, because, but it was what it was. And he said, these things happen. Look, we've got to try and do the right thing for the country and make good things happen. So let's meet, and I'll, tell me what your grievances are, and let's see if we can make good on them. So impressive, I have to say.
When you're in the middle of a firestorm, clearly you feel like it's all focused on you. But what was interesting to me was Kgalema Motlanthe, former president of the country and an elder statesman of the ANC, himself in a Hard Talk interview with the BBC, said he thinks people should not vote for the ANC this time around. So it's interesting. It's coming from other quarters as well. Maybe what you said was articulating what a lot of others, both within the ANC and outside of it, are actually feeling.
Do you know, there were some very senior ANC ministers and members who sent messages to friends of mine to give to me, very critical of what I said. But then the second half of most of their messages said, we're well aware of the failings of our government and of what we're doing. So even within the ANC, there's a lot of, soul searching and realizing that this is not happening. The economy is not happening. But, what I did was I criticized, but didn't give an action plan. I said this is an easy economy to fix. There's so much goodwill. We have so much human ingenuity. We have everything in this country. And I criticized the ANC for destroying the economy and messing up, but I didn't give an action plan.
But to be fair, you only had 20 minutes. My fault. I gave you 20 minutes to do the talk, and then there was a lot of ground covered in the Q&A. But
I was firing on emotions there as well.
The action plan, what is that? Have you, now that you've had time to reflect and think?
I don't think the ANC is capable of doing it or have the will. They want to just, empower the elite. They want to make very few people wealthy, and they don't care about the broad base of the population. It's simple. If this country has population growth higher than economic growth, and that's a recipe for disaster. It means every year we get poorer. Every year there's less opportunity in this country. You have to have economic growth that exceeds population growth. And there's no reason why we shouldn't have the highest economic growth in Africa and be the engine of Africa again. Why should Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire and countries like that have 5, 6, 7% economic growth and we're at less than 1%? Ridiculous. It's because the policies are wrong. And the ANC never talk about economic growth. They don't talk about growth, investment, employment. They talk about redistribution, expropriation without compensation. They have no idea how to build an economy, how to build businesses. And it's proven by the fact that they can't run, they can't do service delivery. They can't run state-owned enterprises. All of ISOEs are bust. They just don't know how to do it. They're incompetent. So we need to end lockdown immediately. The COVID crisis is over, is as good as over. Yes, people are still getting sick. And yes, some people are dying. I lost a very close friend, Richard Conto, this weekend. And we need to end it. It's over. There's no reason for the government now to tell us what we need to do and what we don't need to do under lockdown. End lockdown. 2, sell off state-owned enterprises. Sell them off. The government can't run businesses. And by the way, this applies to just about every government in the world. Business people can run businesses. Sell them off. Get rid of South African Airways. It's over. Let international airlines, Ethiopian Airlines and others do international flights. And Airlink, Comair, FlySafair can do local and regional. They're equipped to do it. They know how to do it. Why resuscitate South African Airways? The ANC has broken it and stolen it. It's over, finished. And sell off all the other ones. And instead of having BEE legislation, which doesn't work, even Julius Malema says it doesn't work, make sure that the state-owned enterprises are sold off and that the majority ownership are the new Black South African industrialists. Instead of taking pieces of private companies, which is theft, in my view, why not take the state-owned enterprises, privatize them, but ensure that South African Black industrialists, and not the usual people, new ones, have the majority ownership and build those businesses?
But how do you pick them? How do you pick them? Surely that's
pick what?
Pick who the industrialists are.
Don't have the usual.
Okay.
I'm trying not to name names, but don't have the usual you-know-who's.
Suspects.
Suspects. 3, energy supply. Businesses, you can't build a business if you don't have power, if you don't have consistent power. So Eskom's failed. It's been broken and stolen to death. It's over. Lift the lid on independent power producers. There's a ton of money within South Africa and foreign money ready to come in to invest in not just renewable energy, but also fossil fuels. I'm not as anti-fossil fuels as everyone, but I think we've got fossil fuels in this country. Let's use them. Let's build power plants, but let private money do it. Why does the government can't run businesses?
Use them while we can, because it appears
exchange
as
controls, remove exchange controls,
Yeah.
reform visa regulations. We want talented foreigners to come here. Silicon Valley took off like a rocket when all those incredible international and Indian technologists and entrepreneurs were allowed into America. They flowed in. Silicon Valley took off like a rocket. Let's do the same here. Let's encourage people to come here and build businesses. and then get rid of EWC. Expropriation without compensation is so stupid. It's theft. It's just the most idiotic thing on the planet, and it's scaring away all foreign investment. And finally, you've got to make South Africans feel safe and confident. You know, people don't feel safe in this country, and there's no confidence. We've got to restore that. This is very simple to do. Our country should be growing at 5 to 10% a year, and everybody will benefit. Everybody.
Rob, what do you think about, given what the solutions are, and they sound very sane and sensible, what do you think the election that's coming up on November the 1st is going to tell us, given that Kgalema Motlanthe even says, don't vote ANC. Rob Hersov has been explaining why, and there have been many others, and there are new forces emerging. We heard at our conference from Muzi Maimane, who's got helped 350 independent candidates put forward by the communities they serve. So there's something that could be happening here, a bit of a watershed, or are you of the opinion that it's same old, same old?
No, I think the ANC is going to be shredded. I think they're going to go way below 50%. You know, they can't do service delivery. They can't run municipalities. They can't run cities. They can't run provinces. You know, they just can't run anything is the answer. And people are aware of that, even within the ANC. But there's this kind of sort of loyalty to the ANC, which, and again, it's not a football team. These are the people that run the country. So stop voting for them, but don't not vote. You know, there are 16 million people who are registered voters who don't vote. If half of those vote for Herman Mashaba, Action SA, the DA, whomever, but not the ANC, we then could even have a coalition government of good people that believe in the whole country and economic growth. And then we're on track. And I am South African. I came back from 31 years overseas. I live in South Africa. I'm investing in South Africa. I believe in our country. I love our country. And I want it to be a success for everyone.
Is that why you put your head above the parapet, which so few business leaders are prepared to do?
You know, again, I shouldn't have named names there, but the business leaders are either cowards, selfish, or they've left the country. If they left the country, fair enough. But the ones that are here are just not standing up and being counted. Why should I do it? Why me? Anyway, I seem to put my head above the parapet.
Well, why not you? Why not you? So
that's also
many
true.
people are saying.
No,
someone has to do it. Yeah.
I know, but it would be nice to have some of the big names in business in this country step up and say, you know, Rob was a bit overboard, but generally what he was saying is correct and we endorse it. The silence is deafening.
So where to from here, Rob?
Look, there are a lot of good people in this country, and what the civil unrest in KZN and Gauteng showed is, thank goodness, there are more good people in this country than bad. And the good people who have stayed in this country, who either don't have an option to leave or don't want to leave because they love it like I do, they love this country, need to get behind the good guys now. They need to be voting for Action SA, for the DA, you know, for Patriotic Alliance, for the good guys, and get the ANC out.